Thanks for tuning in. So today I'm going to do something a little bit different from my normal sort of videos. I'm going to be doing a bit of a guide on a track day. So your first track day, what should you expect, how much should it cost, where should you go, and try and give you some tips, tricks, all that sort of stuff. Why should I be telling you this? Well, I've done probably about 15 of these in the last year, so while I'm not the front of all knowledge, I feel like I've probably got a pretty good idea of what to expect. Here's my E46 M3. It's still a bit of a road car, but it's a little bit more track setup than your average M3, with some sticky tyres, suspension. It's got a Recaro pole position, a few other little bits and bobs like that. Hopefully with this video it gives you a bit of information and it maybe inspires you to go out and do a track day yourself. First thing you're going to want to do is actually book a track day. There's a few different providers. This here is Javelin's website, so try and find a date that works for you and also a track that is maybe close to home, especially for your first one. As you can see, they range anywhere from about 90 quid all the way up to 300 plus quid. Here's another website which is MSVT, so MSV own a lot of the tracks in the UK such as Donington, Cadwell, but again this is another really good provider. They do some really good dates and they're pretty standard across the board for the sort of price of track days. I find there's not much difference between the different companies. Another website that's worth considering is trackdays.co.uk, as you can see here. So they have several different providers of track days that advertise all their dates on this website. Couple top tips for me. So my first one, as I just previously mentioned, is try and book something reasonably close to home. At the end of the day, if something goes wrong with the car, at least you're not going to be far away to get it either recovered or potentially just limp at home. My second tip is to book an evening session. A couple of reasons for this. First of all, it's a little bit cheaper to do usually, so you can try it out before you spend a lot of money on a full track day. The other reason is as well for your car, because it's only 2 to 3 hours, you've put in a lot less stress on the car, and if there is an issue with the car, you're not going to ruin a full track day. Being that it's your first track day, the car might not be fully prepped for it, so you might have some issues. My first track day was an evening session at Donington Park, and I managed to crack one of my front discs on it, so obviously I wouldn't have been able to continue the day afterwards. So good thing that I only booked an evening session, so I only missed out about 20 minutes of track time in the end. After you've booked your track day, it's everyone's least favourite job, it's doing some maintenance. So doing an oil change before you go on a track day is definitely worthwhile, especially if it hasn't been done in a little while. Also, give your tyres a check over. If they're bald and showing cords, they're probably not much use. While you can get some motorsport focused tyres like these Nankang CRSs or the Nankang A01s, you don't really need some for your first track day. Something like a Michelin Pilot Sport 5 will be absolutely perfect for a first track day. They're what I used on my first track day and they were really good. As long as they're not Chinese ditch finders, you'll probably be okay. Okay, so brakes. This is probably the one thing I would say you should put quite a lot of attention into and maybe spend a bit of money on before going on a track day. Have a look at your pads, maybe get some uprated brake pads if you can, and then look at your brake fluid. Boiling your brake fluids, you'll probably end up like this guy and coming off the track, you'll get a soft pedal and you won't have any brakes at all. So definitely have a look into that. I think for a final point on maintenance, just have a check over the car. Use your common sense just to make sure there's no fluids leaking, coolant, oil, make sure all your sort of wheel bolts are tight, all that sort of good stuff. In terms of what to take, the minimum I'd take is probably a tyre pressure gauge, a spare bottle of oil and a torque wrench as well, all pretty important. However, a little bit more, you can take a jack and an axle stand and also some tools as well. With some basic tooling you can probably get yourself out of a bit of a pinch if you need to. Helmets are already another important one. Don't feel like you need to buy one, you can rent them on the day, usually £10 to £20. However, if you want to buy one you can get them for about 100 quid. If you're doing a track day rather than an evening session, you'll generally find it's quite an early start, so you usually get up there for about 8 with sign-on opening around that time and your sighting laps starting about 9 o'clock. I usually get up there pretty early, take all my tools out of the car and get set up either in the paddock or in a garage if I've decided to rent. From here you can go get signed on, get your wristband and sticker, and then once the time comes around then you can then go do your sighting laps. Sighting laps are essentially you all go out in single file, there's no overtaking and you just follow one of the instructors or marshals and they'll show you the lines of the track. It's a good way to learn the track without going at any particular speed and not have to worry about looking in your mirror and seeing what's going on before starting the actual session. I know some people aren't a big fan of sighting laps, but I do see why all the track day organisers do them. You'll generally do about 2 laps and then you'll go back into the pits. There'll probably be 2 or 3 groups of sighting laps that happen before you can actually go on track itself. Once this is done though, if it's an open pit lane session, generally that's it, you're good to go once all the sighting laps have been completed. Bit of a personal preference for me, I generally wait about 15 minutes or so for people to go out before me. I quite often find, usually at the start of the session, when people go out on cold tyres, the track might be a little bit damp still or still cold. That's when red flags tend to happen. People come off track and the track gets shut down. So I like to wait about 15 minutes just for people to get that out of their system, and then I'll go out and do my laps. When you go on track, you'll get down, show your wristband, and then the marshal will let you out. Once you get out, probably worth doing a couple laps just to make sure you've got heat in the tyres. You'll quite often find when you've got cold tyres, it's a lot slippier going around the track, so you'll go into a corner, potentially slide around it if you're going a little bit too hot. So yeah, always worth getting a bit more heat in the tyres before you really go for it. When you go out, just be sure to check your mirrors. Things come up quite fast, so this aerial atom that went past me came flying up behind me. It's a much quicker car than I have, so things do appear quite quickly. Drive within your ability. It's not a race, you're not out there to try and beat anyone and just leave your ego at home. There's things that cost a third of the price of your car, and there's things that cost 10 times the price of your car on track. Everyone's at different abilities, so just always keep that in mind. When you're out as well, most circuits in the UK you have to overtake on the left hand side. Try and wait until they indicate or there's a straight. You're not meant to overtake through corners and braking zones. Sometimes mistakes do happen, you might go past someone in a braking zone, but try not to do this, you might get black flagged by the marshals. Speaking of flags, there's a few different ones to bear in mind. So this is a red flag here, which means the session's essentially come to an end because there's been an accident or an incident or something. So everyone slows down, there's no overtaking, then you come back into the pits while the marshals deal with whatever's happened on track. The other ones to be aware of is a yellow flag, so this means you can stay out. There's something has happened, it might be someone span off, something like that. You can continue driving, but you slow down and there's no overtaking, but you don't have to return to the pits just yet. The other one is a yellow and red flag, which means there's some kind of fluid or something's on the track. So there's a red and yellow flag in this track day because there's a cone that had gone into the tracks that someone had hit, so you had to slow down around that area. As I spoke about earlier, there's also the black flag, which means that the marshals want you in for something. So they'll wave it at you specifically, and it means either there's something wrong with your driving, you might be overtaking people on the right hand side or in braking zones or around corners, something along the lines of that, or it could be that they've noticed a technical defect with your car, so something might be coming off your car or what have you. So you need to return to the pits and then go speak to a member of the track team. Once you finish your session, it's a good idea to do a couple cool down laps. This allows you to get a bit of cool air into things like the brakes, so they cool down properly and you don't have any issues with your brakes, and also it allows you to get your coolant down to sort of more normal temperatures as they get really hot when you're on track. When you're doing a cool down lap, just go slow around track, maybe sort of 50% of the speed that you're doing before you do it on a cool down lap. In between sessions, it's always good to check your tyre pressures. They'll start to rise, so you can bring them down a bit with the tyre pressure gauge. So if you've got one, definitely take it along. The other thing to do is check your wheel bolts. Obviously, they get a little bit loose when they get hot, so it's a good idea to go check them in between sessions just to make sure they haven't backed off any, so you don't end up like this guy. So final point I really want to cover, and I've spoken about it a little bit already, is the cost of it. So generally, I find for a full actual track day rather than an evening session, you're probably going to be about £200 for the day in terms of paying for the track day at somewhere like Cadwell Park. On top of that, you've got to take into account the fuel you're going to use, so I generally use about a tank worth of fuel for the day. And clearly as well, all your tyres, your brakes, they're going to have a lot more load on them, so they're going to wear out a bit quicker. I can't tell you how much it's going to be for your car, because obviously it's going to be different to what my car is, being that the M3 is a bit of a heavy car, still with the full interior. It goes through tyres and brakes pretty quickly, and they can be quite expensive. But if you've got something a little bit lighter, maybe like a hot hatch, they'll last a lot longer. While I don't take out insurance, this is something that you can do. I have looked into it before, and it can be around about £200 for the day, obviously depending on what your car's value is as well. So all in, I reckon for the average track day, you're probably going to be looking for about £400 to £500 once you take everything into account. Clearly, it is a lot of money, but then I think the fun that you get out of it and the driving experience you get out of it is very much worth it. You can definitely make this cheaper though by doing things like evening sessions, or if you've got a lighter car, or maybe just doing less sessions and having a little bit more time in between each session. I think that covers the bulk of what you'll probably need to know for your first track day. There's a pretty comprehensive safety brief before going on the track day as well, so anything safety pertinent, it will be covered by that. Before you go on your first track day, don't feel like you need to have, an M3 or a Porsche or something like this. You get anything from Ford Fiesta, 1.2 Ford Fiesta, all the way up to 911 GT3 RSs and everything in between. You don't need to have a properly track prep car, as long as the car's in good roadworthiness, as I spoke about earlier, good tyres, good brakes, and have a good look over the car, you'll probably be absolutely fine. I think above everything else is go out and have a good time on the track day. They are really fun, and you can push a car far harder on a track day than you'll ever do on the road, and it's in a really safe environment. You can also, if you need help, go up to other people and ask them for tools, things like that. People are more than willing to help, I generally find. Yeah, so that's me finished the track day, and that's sort of the end of my video. I hope it's been useful. If you've got any questions, pop them down in the comments. I'll try and answer them the best I can. As I said at the start, I'm not the front of all knowledge for this. However, as I've done quite a few, I feel like I've got some good points to add, especially for someone going for their first track day. Cheers for watching. I'll see you in the next one.